Hello students, can you hear me? About understanding companies. So basically, I'm going to Hi, students. Good afternoon. Can you just on the chat let me know whether you can hear me well and you can see my messages also? So I'm assuming you can hear me well. If you can, somebody can type yes. Yes, you're fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are at 2 o'clock. So let's get started. Um, yeah. So first, let me. I hope you guys have seen a video we sent about Satkam Foundation. So let me just speak a little about, since it's our first session for this semester. I'll speak a little about Satkam Foundation and also about today's topic. So my name is Abhijit Bide. I am one of the co-founders of Satkam Foundation. I have worked in the industry for close to 30 years, and I've worked across the world, India, US, so on and so forth. And I always worked for product companies all my life. So I built products, I have released products, I have worked for big companies, small companies, and I've been fortunately part of two, three startups or mid-sized companies which also got acquired or being part of acquisitions myself. And the reason for saying this is because over the last 30 years, I've seen how the evolution of this whole domain, this segment has happened, and so eager to share my experiences with you, which will help you. So, what is Satkam trying to do? So, like me, right, there are more than 75 plus people in Satkam who have about 20 plus years of experience, and this is a non-profit. So we do this to help students hopefully get good jobs in the industry, because the needs of the industry are changing a lot. I mean, with AI, it was happening before itself, but with AI coming in, it is especially true now, where basically the expectations the companies have now from students is very, very different as they join as freshers. I mean, you must be talking to your seniors or you must be seeing what's happening out there. So definitely a big shift is happening in the way industry is looking at the kind of talent they want and what they look for now. See, what used to happen when I got out of college was they used to look for doers, right? Because everything was new, so they need a lot of effort and time to actually do the thing. So there is few people who actually thought about innovations, new things, designed it, and there are a lot of doers, right? So we had to do stuff because it used to take time and effort. Over time, we went from internet, being from the internet era. So when I got out of college, internet had just come in. I got out in mid 90s, right? And internet was a very massive shift in the way companies started looking at how they want to build their products, right? You guys are experiencing something very similar with AI now. It's a massive shift. Believe me, it's a massive shift. Okay, and all of you know that. We just don't know how it's going to change everybody's lives, right? In terms of jobs, job profiles, we have some ideas now, though. And then, of course, cloud came and mobile came and so on and so forth, which were incremental innovations on top of the core foundation of the internet, right? With you guys, the same thing is going to happen. You're at the beginning of AI, right? Nobody has figured out yet. Right now, you're using AI for generating code, you're using AI for day to day tasks, like some content generation, but it's still not known that where will it go. We are seeing some examples of that with self-driving cars or space technology or some software products, intelligence in those, so on and so forth. But it's still the beginning. Now, two things happen when you're at the beginning of something, right? One is it's a massive opportunity for people who understand what that is going to do to the job market or to ideas or to companies, right? And then a lot of people will be left behind because they'll try to do the things the same way that they happened in the last 10, 20 years, right? So now the smartest people or the smartest CEOs in the world or leaders are saying that they are looking for what they call as creative thinkers, right? They no longer want doers, and that is causing a big impact even on Indian companies. If you take the Infosys, TCS, Cognizant, so on and so forth, it's causing a massive impact on them because basically, if you look at it, what were these companies doing, right? What these companies were doing was that taking ideas which people wanted to implement and putting people to implement them, right? But now AI is going to help you a lot with that. So now when I hire a person, I'm going to say, if the doing part AI is helping you so much, what are you going to do, right? So part of that today, what we have done in Satkam is we have brought all that experience together. We have, because we ourselves have seen three massive shifts, right? With the internet, the cloud, and mobile, all three coming in. and we want to give you guys an advantage, because when I've got into my first job, I was lost, because the internet had just come in and companies were saying, you I'm a mechanical engineer, by the way. I'm not a software engineer. I graduated as a mechanical engineer. And now all companies are saying, wait a second, we want to use the internet to build this, build that. We want to automate things. And I was like, what? What do you do with this, right? Because it's so new. Nobody guided us, so we learned the hard way. But for you guys, what we are trying to do is bring our experience with all these 7,500 of us, and yeah, through the semester, different people from the industry. And believe me, guys, they are leaders of the industry. Their own companies, they are chief architects, they are VPs, they are sales leaders. These are the kind of people who are going to teach you, right? And our idea is to give you a tell you what you are headed into by the time you get into fourth year and you start looking for jobs, you look for internships, right? And how interviewing has changed, expectations have changed. And today's topic is the beginning of that. It's called understanding companies. And through the topic, right, we are going to learn what it means to understand. If you don't understand a company, how will you build products? Right? So pay attention, and like this, we are going to have many topics, and hopefully, if you stay with this, by the time you go for your interviews, you'll be really ready, because the technical foundation your college is giving you, but no longer enough, right? What is the format of today's session? So it's a 2 hour session, and as we have said in our post also, we'll take attendance in between sometime, and at the end there'll be a quiz. Sometime in near the end, we'll give a quiz. You have to do both to be marked present for the session, right? Later, we are not going to open up the quiz again or attendance again. So whatever is going to happen is going to happen during this session. I've spoken about this topic a lot, which I'm going to play now, right? And I'm going to be there talking to you. So on chat, right, you can post your questions, and in between we are going to chat with each other, right? I'm going to talk through this topic, I'm going to give you examples, and hopefully it is interesting enough for you to learn and understand why this is so important. So I would request, pay attention. Like me, today also I take a lot of interviews, right? I advise 6 companies in their leadership and their product building, and I have seen the way I take interviews now is very different than how I used to take 10 years back, 5 years back. It has changed completely. Okay. And on the chat, I would request everybody to be respectful of the session as well as others. If I see somebody chatting randomly, posting things randomly, you will be removed from the session, right? And then later, please don't complain that you could not attend, you could not give the test, or you could not do the attendance, because I don't want any disturbance on the chat. Not because what you're trying to do with your friends is unimportant. It probably is important to you, but then do it outside the session, right? Because then you will be disturbing others who are trying to pay attention, right? And what we are also doing is we are holding these thinking competitions in all your colleges. We are the companies we are involved with are selecting interns based on what we see in the students. So all this, right, is actually gearing you towards the job market, or if you want to start your own business, correct? So with that said, we are going to get started now. Before that, if anybody has any questions, please post it, and we'll be doing from time to time. I will come and speak with you like this in between the session. The session has been done by me only, so you're going to see that now. And in between, I'm going to do a Q&A with you, and then let's go from there. So have fun. Hopefully, you enjoy the topic. Thanks. We'll just start now. Okay. If you have any question, as I said, please post. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Whatever you ask the question, I'm happy to answer. Even at the end of the session, I'll stay back for you guys if anybody has any questions, and I'll be happy to answer it. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to the session. This session is about understanding companies. So basically, I'm going to go through some basics of that, and before you get into the actual topic, and also methodology for all of you to basically know this topic really well and use it in your day-to-day life. Now, as the topic says, just to do a little recap, understanding companies, what is it and why is it even important, right? So wherever you do, whatever you do in life, right, whether you're going to start your own business, you're going to work for somebody, it's extremely important to know how you understand what you're working on and why, right? Because unless you understand who you are working for, what you are working on, and why, you'll never be able to contribute truly to organization. And what is happening now is, as in the changing world with especially AI coming in, right? All employers are looking for anybody joining them to basically contribute beyond their assigned work. I mean, you must be hearing this about this from your seniors, from what is happening around you, reading about it. So this whole concept of understanding, right, is critical now, because even if you, when you join any company, you're either going to work on a product or you're going to work on in a some offer some service. But the people who are able to contribute the best are the people who know, oh, okay, wait a second, what is this service for? Who is using it? So what features should I give? What features should I not give? And when you join as a fresher, you don't have a good understanding of that. So you keep doing the work assigned to you. And after some time, there are some people who understand this and keep giving ideas and going upwards in the organization while many stay behind. So what we are trying to do is to bridge that gap, to make sure that guys can also think the way companies expect you to think and contribute to this area called understanding companies, right? Now, why, as I said, right, the world is changing as we are looking at it, guys. So basically, uh, there was a time 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years back, where doers or the people who were assigned work and they did that really well were truly important to organizations, because everything was new. A lot of new languages were getting written, databases were coming in, cloud was coming in, mobile was coming in. So there are few people who figured things out, and there are many people who actually took that and did assigned work, may it be building, coding, testing, whatever it may be, right? But that whole area has collapsed now with the world, with AI coming in, right? Because the doing part, you're getting a lot of help now, right? So if I have to do the doing part and I'm getting a lot of help, what companies are expecting now is saying that, okay, if you're getting so much help, what more can you do for our company, right? Where can you contribute more to acquire more customers, gain more revenue, get customer satisfaction, make sure our customers are happy using our product. Now, when I was in after engineering, when I went into companies, I never got exposed to such things because we are very busy just doing our assigned work. But no longer true, and this is why the best people in the world, leading big companies, right from Google to Facebook to even non-software companies, the CEOs are saying that we need creative thinkers now. And we believe that in Satcam, these four skills which we are giving here, which is curiosity and inquisitiveness, critical thinking, problem solving, and articulation, are the four key skills which actually enable you to become those creative thinkers, right? And in all our sessions, what we are going to do is try to make you employment ready, to make you attractive for employers to hire, so that you can demonstrate all these skills, the thinking skills, along with the doing part, which are anyway learning, right? So in today's topic also, we are going to give you a thinking framework, that if I have to understand a company, when I join a company, how will I even know what am I doing, why am I doing it, so on and so forth, so I can contribute my best. So we are going to give you some techniques to do that, right? So we are going to help you become thinkers, right? So now you become a thinker doer, right? For all practical purpose. Now, the to understand any company, right? You basically have four things which you need to understand. There is something called a domain. There is something called a customer. There is something called offering, which is the product or service you offer, and a strategy, right? If you understand these four things, you'll understand any company, right? And as we go through the session today, you will understand the importance of knowing all the four, right? But knowing all the four, nobody's going to come and give it to you. Nobody's, when you join any organization or you go for an interview to join a company, nobody's going to hand it to you and saying, oh, this is our domain, these are our customers, this is our product, and this is our strategy, right? A lot of things you have to learn to figure out, right? Now, what are these four things? So domain is basically the area the company works in. So for example, right, if we are talking about, we talked about Facebook and Google and so on and so forth. So you are in this world of social media, for example. Or if you talk about a Mahindra and Mahindra or a Tata or a Hyundai, they are in the world of automotive, right? So these are broad domains, right? So or if you talk about companies like Cipla or Dr. Reddy's, they are in the area of pharmaceutical domain, right? Now, why is it important to know domain? because a domain is never constant, right? Because things keep changing. So within a domain you'll have many companies who are your competitors, right, who will be there. But not every time you will be able to make the same products through time, because the domain itself is changing, right? New innovations are coming, new things are happening. So if you don't understand the shift in those domains, right, then you'll not be able to adapt your product, you'll not be able to improve your product and build something which now the customers need. So AI is a very good example now, right? There is a big domain shift in the area of IT, information technology, right? It has affected the whole domain. It has affected the way things are getting built. Now, if you don't pay attention to that, you are going to be left behind. And this is a very big example. But there are many small examples of domain shifts, right? So, for example, in the world of automotive engineering, right? Now they are seeing that all of a sudden a lot of governments in the world are bringing in norms for pollution control, right? So you have ethanol based petrol coming in, or you have new norms coming for how much pollution, or how much, what is the pollution each car can cause maximum, right? Now if you don't pay attention to the domain, which is how the government is started looking at this space called in the automobile space, or this domain, you will be late in trying to now say, okay, okay, what do I need to do engineering wise to innovate and make my cars more green, right? If you don't see these shifts in the domain of how customers are looking at it, how governments are looking at it, how the market is looking at it, you will not be have enough time to react and respond, right? So good companies always pay a lot of attention to domains, what is happening overall in their area, correct? Because the shift in those areas causes shift in the customers also, right? Talking about customers, not every company targets the same customers, even if they are in the same domain. We'll take an example in a minute. Like for example, if you take OTT space, Hotstar, which is now Geo Hotstar, doesn't target the same customers as Netflix, right? Hotstar targets different customers than Netflix altogether. Maruti doesn't target the same customers as a Mercedes or a BMW at all, right? Now, if you don't understand who you are targeting, how will you build a good product? Because if you try to sell a BMW to a middle class or a middle class person, he won't buy it, right? If you try to sell an EV car to a person in the rural areas who is a farmer, or who is part of a town or a small village, he won't buy it, right? And these are extreme examples. But unless you understand your customer, you cannot build good product. So within the domain there are customers, and now you cannot target every customer within your domain, because if you target every customer within your domain, you're going to need a lot of money. You're going to need so much time and money that you'll never be able to afford it. So companies decide who to target. That's called customers, right? So if you think of any company, right, you will see that there are particular customers they are targeting, and we'll take an example of that also, right? What is the offering? Finally, offering is the product you build. But the product you don't start with the product. You understand what the domain is, you understand what the customers you're targeting, and then you build a product for them. You don't build a product and then start searching for customers and start looking at what the domain is all about, right? So the third part, which is the part you guys will be most involved in, is the offering or the product or service, right? So when you join any company, you will be asked to work on some product or service. You'll be asked to develop a feature, fix a bug, fix a issue, but you'll be working on a product finally, correct? Now, if you work on a product and you have no understanding of who your customer is and why they are even going to buy your product or use your product, then you will not be able to contribute to any ideas. You don't know whether this capability is better than this. How would you know that, right? If you understand all the three, so let's say you understand the domain, you understand your customers, you understand the product, right? Then you understand the strategy of that company, right? So if you take if you I'll give you an example in a minute, but strategy is always output. We are always very excited about what is the strategy of this company, what is the strategy of Apple, what is the strategy of Reliance, what is the strategy of let's say Mahindra and Mahindra, correct? What is the strategy of let's say Dell computers now? So if you think about it, right, strategy comes out of the management of that company or the people in that company understanding the domain they are in, the customers they are targeting, and thus the product they are building, right? Then they put money behind it, and where they put money tells you their strategy. What are they investing in? That clearly is the strategy, right? The strategy is all about investments of time and money. So all you have to pay attention to, where is the customer, where is the company putting the money, where are they putting the most focus and people, and then you can understand. Oh, okay. This is what I mean by strategy, right? So these are the four pillars, right? If you understand these four pillars of any company, you'll definitely understand the whole company, right? And why is that important is what we are going to learn. If you understand these four, why is it critical, right, for you to know this overall topic? Now, very simple example. We just talked about Hotstar, Netflix. So, Hotstar, as you know, has been in their claim to fame was sports entertainment, right? When you thought Hotstar, you thought IPL. So now, if you look at the domain they're in the OTT domain, they're in the entertainment domain, right? The entertainment domain has shifted a lot, right? It has come all the way from you know um, street dramas all the way to movies, television, video cassettes, CDs, DVDs, and now it has come all the way to online streaming, right? Now, if does a Netflix compete with Hotstar? Yes, it does. But does it compete always for the same type of customer? Maybe not, because Hotstar, its always claim to fame was sports entertainment. So they targeted people, young people especially, who are willing to, who are passionate about sports, and they will subscribe to Hotstar for sports. Whereas Netflix, if you know, always notice Netflix was a premium, it's a premium product, right? The amount of money they charge per month is much higher, but they're still able to make a lot of money. Why is that? The reason is because they are targeting serious entertainment watchers, right? That's why they make original stuff. They make original movies, documentaries. They're investing a lot in actually creating things because they want serious entertainment people, a little above the age of 30, 35, 40 people who are working and can afford to pay, right? Whereas Hotstar is targeting volumes of people, which is why if you notice on Hotstar, right, that translate into a product. They'll always, while showing IPL or anything, right, they'll tell you 12 crore people watching, 5 crore people watching. The reason is they're going after many people, as many young people who are interested in sports, and they're going after the volume game. Whereas Netflix doesn't tell you that. Netflix doesn't say, oh, this movie is right now being watched by 2,000 people. They don't say that, right? They are a premium product, they want a premium experience. So if you notice, both are in the entertainment space, but the kind of customers they are targeting are very different. And that has given rise to their strategy also, because the domain is the same. They are seeing the shift in the domain where it is headed, so they always pay attention to that, right? So Netflix has of course moved from renting DVDs and CDs to online streaming as cloud evolved, right? So they are paying attention to the technology changes in their domain, which is why they succeeded. But when they started targeting their customers, they also knew they wanted premium customers, right? Serious entertainment watchers, which is why if you notice their product is a relatively serious product. Whereas on Hotstar, you will see some gamification, you will see them, targeting what young people like, the color scheme. So the product is actually a result of them knowing where they are in their domain, who their competition is, and the kind of customers they want to target. So if you're working for any of these companies, right? If you're in Netflix, for example, you better be very, very good in machine learning, AI, data science, so on and so forth, because they focus a lot on recommendations, on telling the customer what they would like to see. Whereas Hotstar, you better be very good in performance engineering. They are very focused on handling volumes without buffering, because live sports streaming requires a highly robust product which doesn't buffer even if there are crores of people watching. So you better be very good in performance engineering, right? Now, if you're interviewing at this company and you understood this, then you would prepare the right way, and you would also target in the interview when you're asked, you're going to answer with the understanding of what the company knows is important for them, right? And that will also allow you to understand, right, what their strategy is, where are they investing, right, over time. So if you take Mahindra's example, right, Mahindra used to always sell to rural people, right? They used to have the boleros, the jeeps, so on and so forth. Early 2010, 2008, 2010, 12, around that period, they made their first urban vehicle, big urban vehicle, because they saw one of the things, the shift in the domain which happened in India was people started preferring big cars, SUVs. Mahindra was one of the companies we saw this very early. So they made the Scorpio, right? A lot of companies did not, so they came very late with products. Mahindra was one of the early entrants, and they actually were at a disadvantage. They didn't have urban customers, much urban customers. But from where they were to where they are, the reason is because they saw the shift in their domain of people preferring big vehicles, SUVs in India very early, earlier than others actually, right? And then they started making vehicles for the urban population to sell it in big metros, correct? And now while they make tractors and they still make the bolero, right? If you look at a lot of the revenue, it is coming from urban vehicles now, and now they have moved to urban electric vehicles also. So they basically created an urban strategy. Now if you're watching this space, right, you would have noticed that why is Mahindra all of a sudden investing in urban vehicles? Why are they not investing more and more in still in the rural space? Because they also saw that in India our average incomes were growing, people's tastes were changing, right? So they would be left behind, and they would lose a big market which was growing very rapidly, right? They would lose it to a Hyundai or a Tata or a Kia or whatever, right? So they moved fast and they created a strategy around urban customers, right? And now because of that they learned, and they're also very early in the electric vehicle game, right? So this is what I mean by a strategy is a resultant of a company understanding the domain shifts or domain changes, the customers they are targeting, and thus they build a product. And when you look at all these, then you'll understand the strategy of the company, right? So these are kind of so simple examples to just set ourselves up for today's session on, as when you join as a fresher in any company or you go for an interview, right? How would you look at this, right? How does this help you when you start your job, right? We are going to go through this method which I told you, going from domain to customers to products or offering to strategy, is when you're allowed to research and get everything together, right? But that is not reality. You'll join a company, you'll be asked to work on a product, right? Directly. So you're starting from the product now. You're not starting from the domain. You may join a Zomato or Swiggy, or you may join a Mahindra or a Tata, or you may join Asian Paints or any company, right? You can join any company post your graduation, right? But whenever you move into that company, the first thing you'll be told to work on some product, either to build something, test something, sell something, market something, but you'll always start with the product. So if you're going to start with a product, how is this methodology going to help you is what we're going to learn today, right? So this is the gap I talked about, right? I mean, we did talk about the normal methodology, but now on the job, in most cases, right, you're going to work on, start working with the product, right? And that is what I'm calling as a reverse method, right? A reverse method means reading a company backward, because the one thing you will be definitely exposed to is the product, right? That's for sure. But the moment you're exposed to a product, from the product, how do I get to the strategy? How do I understand the domain, the customer, the strategy, starting from the product, right? Actually, it's very, very interesting, because this methodology, right, you can take any product. I'm going to give a couple of examples today, but then you can use this method to just take literally any product. Take a smartphone, right, and say this: looking at the smartphone features, can I get to know what kind of customers the company making this smartphone is targeting? What are the shifts in the domain they're realizing, and what is their strategy? You can actually figure that out, right? Look, how that makes you a very good thinker. You'll start understanding. So we'll learn that today, right? So in this method, what you start, it's like in 4 parts, right? So you always, as I said, you'll always start with the product. So the first thing you do in this method is you list the capabilities, right? So what I mean by capabilities is you take any product. So if I take a smartphone, you're going to list down what all features does a smartphone have, right? If you take a product like a car, you're going to say what are the key features of the car? What does this car have which is so different or better than others? What do they market? What are these key features they have? You don't have to write all the 100, 200 features. I'm talking only about the very important key features of the product, right? Because the key features are the ones the company always invests in. They focus on that, right? So you make a list. So that is the first step, right? Now from that you go back and ask the question saying, wait a second, who are they building it for? Because once you understand the features, you're going to know that wait a second, they are targeting a certain type of customer, right? So for example, if you take a car example, right, you're going to see that some cars or some vehicles are have a much bigger ground clearance, right, than the others, right? And looking at just that feature, now it's going to make difficult for somebody to step into the car, but they're still given a very big ground clearance. Who are the customer they're targeting? They're targeting customers who are potentially in rurals or town area who are doing some off-road driving, right, where they don't want the vehicle to get damaged, because it is a little uncomfortable to get into such vehicles, right? But that feature has been built for a reason, correct? So now if you look at anything, I mean, you can look at any product, you can look at your you can look at your, for example, your earphones, and list down the key features of your headphones or earphones and say who are they targeting with this, right? And you're going to notice that they are not, because the features also determine the price of the product. They also determine the amount of complexity of the product, right? So if the feature is very very good, right, but quite complicated to use, they are not targeting old people or aged people, because no aged person, old person is going to buy a complicated product even if the features are fantastic. So now they are targeting the young tech savvy population, right? Just looking at the features, you'll know that, correct? So now to infer the customer, and whenever you join a company, guys, all this data is available with you, right? You can look at the features and you'll know, okay, who is using the features. Then you can look at the type of customers who they have, and then you can infer saying, oh, okay, I get it now. These are the type of customers, right? They're targeting. From that, right, then you can also infer saying, why would they target these kind of customers? Why are they even doing this? There are so many other customers, right? Why these type? These features I know we have built. I'm working on one of these features, right? And I'm targeting. I know now what kind of customer they're targeting. But what happened? Why these customers? Now you can understand what happened in that domain, and I will go through a couple of very good examples of this, and you'll understand how easy this is once you apply yourself, right? So you'll know that if I know all the features which are key, which they are building, and I'm going to work on them. And now I understand my customer, what all things are happening in the domain. And domain also means the big shifts happening, who is the competition, what are the things which are happening in that domain which can cause an impact on how customer looks at a product, right? So I gave you an example, we stick with the example of automotive, right? If the government says there is a norm in the domain shift is that they want more than X% cars to be electric or hybrid, right? And the customers keep hearing about green, about the government pushing for this, their preferences are going to change. So if you now keep making vehicles which give you a low average, right, 8, 9, 10 average or lesser, and you keep building those, and you don't pay attention to the shift which is happening in the customer, because the government is continuously marketing how it is important now from a country's perspective to go towards EV cars, you're going to miss that wave of customers who are going to shift from IC engines to EV, right? Correct? But there is a reason why the company moved to EV in the first place, correct? And that is what you will understand when you start knowing your product, your customer, and thus look at what happened in that domain, right? When you put all these three things together, now you are going to say, where are they putting the money? Lot of the money now has moved from traditional cars to EV. Now you're going to start understanding why and how much. Maybe some companies, not all companies are doing that, right? Some companies are sticking with the strategy of traditional IC engine. They are just making them more and more efficient, right? Is that why is that strategy being deployed by that company? You are going to figure that out when you look at their customers, right? So the main theme here, guys, is you're always going to start with a product. When you join any company, you go for an interview also. Most questions in an interview will be around some product, right? Now, if you in your head you have this framework, right, you can quickly start going backwards and look at the product and say, what are the key features? Don't look at the whole product. Don't look at everything. Just say, what are the 10 or 5 or 10% or 20% key features because of which the customers are buying this product, right? So as an example, Apple phones. Now, Samsung phones are not bad, nor are any other Android phones. But one key reason why people buy Apple phones is security, right? So one of the key features of Apple phones which they keep marketing is security. I know they compete on camera and other things, but they are very good with other phones also. But security is something they believe is for them is far better than other phones, other providers, right? So now if you're going for an interview with Apple, right? If you look at their phone and understand what does it mean by saying their phones are secure, then they'll say, okay, they are targeting customers who are willing to pay a premium for the security they are providing. So then that's why their phones are always priced very high. They never give much discounts because they are targeting a base who can afford it and who are willing to pay for that security, right? And then you'll understand the strategy around the marketing they do, the advertisements they do, everything they do. You'll see that the customers are saying, they're that good that I'll pay a 30-40% premium on over the price of other phones for Apple. Then you start understanding the strategy and which is how you can prepare them to succeed in such companies, right? Now, this is a very interesting one, right? All companies, while they are deciding what to build, the more important thing they're deciding is what not to build, right? Think about it. I can build so many. If I take a phone, right? I mean, tomorrow can Samsung or OnePlus or Xiaomi or anybody can't they invest a lot of money to do things which Apple is investing in or vice versa? But they're not doing that, right? Because for their customer base, there is no premium they're going to get if they do that, right? You can see the same with cars. A Maruti will not invest on certain things the way certain other car companies are doing because they have a loyal customer base who looks for certain things, right? I always give the example of, let's say, a Hero Splendor, right? Hero Splendor has been the best selling two-wheeler or motorcycle for the last 10 years, right? And if you look at Hero Splendor, the design doesn't change much, right? Now, they could also be tempted to make the Hero Splendor compete with the other brands, right? Other brands which look cooler, which are slicker, which have more features. But no, they know that the reason Hero Splendor is bought by everybody today is because they are not compromising on the mileage. Mileage is critical. So they are continuously decide how they don't want to compromise the things customers buy. So what not to do to compromise that is also equally important to the people deciding in Hero on what to put in Splendor in the next version of Splendor versus not. So what not to do is also as important as what to do. So when you look at a product, also ask yourself, what have they not done? So like I give an example, if you take a phone, a car, anything, you're going to say, okay, these are the key features, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But ask the question, what have they not done which their competition is doing? What they are not done will also tell you, right? What are the kind of customers they are not targeting? What are the kind of strategies they are not having, right? So in this example, it's two simple examples, right? For fast food delivery app, right? Schedule for, it's a very extreme example, but you'll never see such a button, right? Whereas on a Myntra or a Flipkart or Amazon, you can schedule a day you want the delivery. Obviously, you won't do it for a food app, right? This is an extreme example, but think about it. There are more complicated things where you're going to say, why are they not doing it? Right? The competition is doing it, but they are not doing it. And when you ask the question why they're not doing it, you'll get to understand because the kind of customer they are targeting doesn't need it or won't pay more even if you give it, right? Same for a banking app, right? An example is given that we get very frustrated, right? That why are they not directly when I say I want help, why are they not connecting me to an agent, right? Because they are charging you very less fees to open a bank account, very less fees, correct? So now they cannot afford to have a person talk to you when you have a problem. So that's why it's a chat. But they entice you to go to premium account. So keep more money in the bank or pay an annual fee. Credit cards do that all the time. And then they will give you a premium person to talk, directly a person to talk to. So the strategy for them is when there are companies or there are banks that are targeting low-end customers who will have very small amount of deposits and basically it's okay for them as long as what they have been given work, right? I won't invest in providing them better service with respect to agent or all that. Chat is what I will do. where there are companies, right? I mean, you may not know this, but there is a card called American Express, right? American Express has been traditionally targeting very high premium customers. So whenever they give you like premium services, right, in terms of hotel reservations, golf, and bookings and whatnot, but they don't go to the people in the lower rung who want a credit card quickly because they are not going out of volumes, right? So now they whenever you have a problem, a person will talk to you there, right? And there are some banks which also do that for premium customers. Now, what is that strategy? You will need to get to know that because you are developing those features, right? Correct. So, what the rule it's below says, na capability and its deliberate absence read together narrows down the customer far better than the capability alone. Very important, guys. What the product doesn't have will also tell you a story. But what it doesn't have tells you, okay, it doesn't have because, oh, these customers are not getting targeted. Oh, because in this domain, this part of the domain, they don't care right now. Okay? So it's a very important point, right? So generally, just give you a methodology, right? We call it the reverse engineering canvas, right? So you go from basically capability means what does the product do and not do. We just talked about that at length, right? The customer who needs it, basically who am I targeting and why, right? And they have to pay for it. Finally, we are talking about for-profit company. So every feature I do has to result in that customer staying with me or choosing me over the competition or paying me more, right? So that's how you look at a customer with respect to the features you have built into the product. Then the domain signal, right? What are the big shifts in the domain? We talked about the shift in the automotive domain with respect to petrol prices or ethanol or moving towards green. So similarly, things are happening on the phone, in the mobile or the communication domain. Things are happening in the same way. Where if you notice the kind of stuff mobile companies or smartphone companies are investing in, it's also because of big shifts happening in that domain with respect to the chips which are coming out, with respect to the with AI also. So you're going to see many more shifts happening, right? And strategy, as I said, is a resultant, correct? So I mean, the question to ask is, what would I ask a company to test or challenge, right? I mean, my inference. So basically, I am trying to figure this out. So now, how do I prepare to know, right? So I start with the product, then I look at their customers, then look at their domain and competition, and then I create what I believe is their strategy. And then I validate that strategy, which is my understanding. Imagine how smart you will look in front of a company when you go for interviews or when you start doing your job, when you talk to your manager and ask him questions, you understand this framework, right? Then you're not the person sitting quietly in a room. You're always going to be the person who is going to ask the right questions because you understand the whole picture, right? So I'm going to take an example to explain this to you even a better way of Zerodha, right? So Zerodha, I hope many of you know it, but Zerodha is one of the big successes in India. They are basically an online broking platform, right? Where you buy and sell stocks. Now they have been very, very successful. There are hundreds and hundreds of companies doing this. There are hundreds and hundreds of brokers in India doing this. Every small village also has a broker. Lots of people in India invest in stocks and mutual funds and bonds, right? So it's a very crowded market, very competitive market. In that kind of a space, Zerodha has become very, very successful. So imagine that I'm sure some of you, a lot of you would love to work for a company like Zerodha. They're extremely innovative company who make a lot of money and does really, really well in their space, right? Now, if you're going to go for an interview with Zerodha, right, and you study their product is going to tell you a big story. If you join Zerodha also, you will know exactly what kind of skills they are looking for because their product is going to now allow you to understand their customer and allow you to understand their domain and their strategy. How, right? So now in this, as I said, nowadays, I mean, it's very simple. Right? Such companies, the simplest thing they do is ask you to open their product and ask you, what do you think? And lot of students go into technology. They say that, oh, you're using AI, you're using Python, you're using C++. They're not asking for that. They're testing your understanding, right? They're asking you whether to help them make a better product or build a great product for the ideas they have. Are you the person who will understand the domain, the customer, the current product, and their strategy to contribute to that thinking. That's what they're trying to ask. And most interview you're going to get this question now, right? You're not told a strategy. They're trying to test whether you can understand it, right? So now in our methodology, the first step was I list down the key capabilities of the Zerodha app, right? And it's okay, guys, if you're not seen the Zerodha app, it's not expected that you know it. But remember, it just simplistically, it allows you to buy and sell stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Very simple, right? And their app is called Kite app, Kite. It's an app they have on the phone, or you can go to zerodha.com, right? To see this, and that's what people use to buy and sell, correct? So that's their product. You can have a mobile app on iPhone or Android phones or any other platform, or you can do on a browser, right? Now, if I take a list of capabilities and I use our methodology and type it out, right? One of the things I notice is, oh, they don't charge any brokerage on equity delivery, right? So basically they are saying we'll not charge you any brokerage, which means what brokerage means is before, right, or many companies or even physical brokers, they charge you some fee when they sell a stock for you or buy a stock for you. So Zerodha says we won't charge you anything, right? They are saying that basically, and they say that clearly, zero fees, Zerodha, right? Then they basically have a lot of education they try to, they try to get you to become better investors, knowledgeable investors. It's not just about doing it like gamble. Zerodha focuses on educating you to become informed investors. Why are they doing that? It's not their job to do it. There are hundreds of YouTube videos. But there are like, if you want to learn, you learn on your own. But they are not saying that. They are saying no, we'll help you learn. That's one of the things you'll notice on their app a lot. Then their UI is very, very simple to use. Just for curiosity, after our session, you can download Kite, right, and look at very minimalistic UI, simple buttons, simple, no complication at all, right? Then they're very so many brokers, right, when you place an order, you'll not know whether the order is fulfilled or not. It'll take time. Even if it happens, your money will come late. So it takes a lot of time. What for them, it's instant. You place an order, you know immediately what has happened, right? And then one of the interesting things they have done is for people in the software space in the audience, right? They have also opened up their product for other people to use their platform to develop applications on top of their product. So they are trying to say that we are providing a platform for broking. And if you have an interesting idea and you want to develop a platform using the Zerodha platform, you want to develop an app or a product, and you use the Zerodha app, and of course there will be some fee arrangement that when they make money, Zerodha gets a cut of that. But it's like apps on Apple Store or Android Store, right? There they have an operating system. Here in this case, Zerodha has an application. So they are saying you can develop something which uses our application to develop your app. They have done that, right? And they don't market much. You're not going to see big posters, banners, TV ads by Zerodha. You will not see that. They are growing by word of mouth, right? Now, these are the things I can even observe very easily, or I did, which is why I made that list, right? About Zerodha's app. But what does that tell me? Which is our first step, right? What does that tell me, right? First thing which tells me about zero broker is one of the things I am as an investor I'm very angry about is that if you say something and later you charge me fees and I see it in my statement, right? That they have charged me some X rupees. So they are saying that no surprise. So they announce zero fees. They're clear, crystal clear, zero fees. So something they're saying that okay, basically there's no hidden anything. So trust us. So they are trying to develop an app on a company which I can trust. Where I feel no, they will not take some fee out without telling me, right? Then the reason they're educating me is because they are not trying you come in as gamblers. They're actually saying you come in, right? And we'll also tell you what it takes to invest in stocks, in bonds. We are going to put videos, we are going to put education material. We don't want you to lose money. We want you to get better and better at doing what you're doing, right? There is a certain type of customer they're targeting is what I'm getting a sense now from the first two, right? Let's see what kind of customer they're targeting. No gamification. So which means there are no fancy things where you click something and something rolls up and down. Nothing on the UI tells me that they're trying to entertain me. A lot of the apps, by the way, are go after gamification because they want to keep you engaged. They want to entertain you. Zerodha is saying we don't want to customers we are trying to entertain. Why? Let's see. right? No push, no, they're not trying to do push to trade more. They're not trying to say, you'll see on WhatsApp, they're going to, companies bombard you to buy their products, to keep doing things. I mean, there are other brokers who keep doing that. But Zerodha doesn't do that. They don't push you to say, oh, we have a great stock tip, buy. They don't keep trying to push you to do things. They are saying, you come and do it. And we trust you'll come and do it on our app, right? They also basically they don't try. They are basically saying that all the data we have, actually we are going to open it up because we want to expand the capabilities of our platform. Let other people develop apps. Why are they doing that? Right? Who are they targeting? Right? And then basically they don't do any influencer marketing, nothing like that. No bulk SMS. They don't trouble you at all, right? So basically they are growing through word of mouth. And why? Because word of mouth and trust will make your customer stay with you much longer than somebody coming in because they saw a fancy ad or a clickbait. They came in and did something and left, right? Something. So what kind of customer is this? This is important for you to know, because if you join Zerodha, you're going for an interview and they ask you, what do you think is another feature we should add to our Zerodha app? If you know this, you're going to know what kind of customer they're targeting. So you're not going to say that, oh, you know what, let's add a fancy button which says that when you click on this, you're going to see some fireworks coming out saying this is the stock tip we have today, some gamification, right? You're not going to say that if you understand this well, because what kind of customer are they targeting? So if you notice, they are targeting serious, self-directed, cost-conscious. I don't want to spend money unnecessarily, but I'm a serious investor. I'm not trying to do this like gambling, come in, try and go and leave. So if you notice, Zerodha's customer base is very loyal to them, because they have come in, they got educated, they see that Zerodha doesn't trouble them with pushing them to do a lot of things, but they also try to educate. So they are serious investors. Now, there are many companies out there who are also targeting bulk investors, like people who want to try it once and see how it goes, right? And that's also not wrong. But Zerodha's focus is not that, right? So if you notice what they are doing, right, they are targeting what I given in the bottom, which is self-directed, cost-conscious, moderate to highly financially literate retail investors. What does that mean? We are not trying to target investors who are just saying, oh, I have just 1,000 rupees available, let me just try this out, like, how investing works. They're trying to get people who are consistently going to invest, who are interested in the stock market, right? And who then Zerodha says will work with you to make sure you get better and better at what you're doing, right? So it's like the OTT example I gave you. Netflix targets serious entertainment watchers, unlike Hotstar or Z, for example, right? Similarly, Zerodha has targeted certain customer base. This understanding is not easy, guys, because now you'll start thinking, why are they not advertising so much, right? Because there is a counter to this also, right? If everything is by word to mouth, will they not take a long time to grow? Because they're not doing any marketing, they're not doing any TV ads, no banners. So will that not take a very long time is the counter question I will have, right? But we'll talk about that in a minute. But here at least I went from listing down the key features or the key things, key observations I have about the product, to now deriving what kind of customer they are targeting, right? And the customer they are targeting also, if you notice, one of the things that they are working with also, they want to create a community. That's why they opened up their product. So one type of customer they're targeting is who are serious investors, who are serious about learning how to invest, but they're also trying to create a community which also uses Zerodha app and develops very good tools around it to help investors. So what their goal is to create a community of people, and once you create a community, you get a lot of loyalty, right? And once you get loyalty, that person will keep spending with you only. They will not leave. That is what Zerodha is trying to do. Whereas you can look at like app like Grow, right? GROWW. They went public. They also are successful. They were targeting people who are like, I just want to try this out. Move fast. They used to do tons of marketing. You used to see their ads on TV, on airports, on banners everywhere. They went into a very different strategy. They are going after volume investing. Tons and tons of people who invest once or twice is okay for them. So they went after volumes. Zerodha went the opposite way. So look at two companies in the same space competing with each other, but targeting two different kind of customers, right? So now, why did this happen? Why did Zerodha do this in the first place? Because see, traditionally in this investing domain, the most dominant people were the physical brokers, right? But then what happened was discount broking became viable, right? Once internet came in, Zerodha was one of the first companies or early companies in India who started realizing the potential of India with respect to online, because they saw that internet is going to become cheaper. People are becoming India people are tech savvy in general. They like to work on their use their phones a lot, right? They start observing all of this, and they said that this is a time where the domain is shifting from the traditional broking world where you went and talked to a person, sat with him, decided, placed the order, to people are getting trust on doing things online. That is the same time when online commerce also grew, like Flipkarts of this world also grew, right? The second is the retail investing also. But if you notice 20 years back, right, common people did not invest in stocks. But over time, government also, if you'll notice, you notice a lot of ads even by the mutual fund industry saying mutual fund. They bring in Dhoni and Tendulkar to market about investing in mutual fund SIPs, basically, right? So the awareness was also growing in people that don't just put your money in banks and do fixed deposits, right? Invest in the stock market, right? So that's what they call as the retail boom, right? Lot of people opened demat accounts and started investing because they also started gaining trust in the market, saying, oh, I won't lose money just like that. If I'm smart and careful, I'll make more money than keeping my money just in the bank, right? And they were basically what they saw, what Zerodha saw was the domain was moving in two different ways. One where people now were gaining the trust and becoming serious investors, and there were a lot of people who were trying, who are this volume investors who will come once and twice try. They wanted some fun, and Growg went after that. GROW, Grow went after that. But Zerodha came in. So their strategy was focused around the domain shift, around people basically trusting online things, online commerce, online buying, online selling rather than just a physical person, and also the fact that generally investing was becoming more and more popular in India, right? So now we can understand that why Zerodha created this zero brokerage model, why they created the simple to use application, what kind of investors, because that answers one of the questions, right? If you are going by word of mouth, you're not advertising, then you should have lots of people who are at least interested. And you will see in India, the interest in investing grew a lot in the last 15 years. So Zerodha did capitalize on that, right? And does what strategy do they reveal? The Zerodha is not trying to win the newest, most gamified, hungry segment. As I said, Grow went after that. Zerodha did not. They are not trying to go after them. So they are kept true to the customers, which is why they are very profitable. Once they have a customer, the customer doesn't leave them. They are very profitable, which is why they are not gone public yet. They don't need to raise money, right? It is protecting and monetizing trust and high value, which is what I exactly said, right? And then they are also trying to create an ecosystem, a community who will trust Zerodha. So they stick with them, right? So the inferred strategy statement, which I'm going to read out, which basically we can derive, is win the self-directed, trust-seeking investor for the long run by staying low cost and platform like funding. So the net, what we are saying is that if you are somebody studying Zerodha, you're going for an interview with Zerodha or joining Zerodha or any company, right, like Zerodha, if you study this, now you know their product, you know their customers based on the product, you understand what happened in that domain because of which they decided to build such a company with targeting certain type of customers who are serious investors. And now you understand where they're putting their money to create that ecosystem, that community. So now if you're joining them, yeah, they will expect to work on such things that, oh, can you help me now build this platform so that more and more applications can be developed? Can you help our make our application faster, cheaper, better? They're not trying to give look at if can you develop more fancy UI? You're a UI developer. Can you develop fantastic UI for me? That's not their focus. Now, once you know this, imagine how impressive you will be in an interview or when you join the company, how many ideas you will have. So in this methodology, right, any product you can take and work backwards to understand the customer, the owner, domain, and thus have a point of view on the strategy. And this will give you a full understanding of the company, right? So I'm sure that at this point, right, I mean, we can discuss certainly if you have any questions on your mind also, right? We can discuss that. But if you look at the power of this strategy, the power of this methodology, you're starting to get a sense, right? And you can just look around you and look at any product and try this out. What are the five features or five or some features which stand out for that product? What makes people buy this product, and work backwards. Okay. So now, as I said, right, while I understand the strategy, it also gives me counter questions, right? Opposite questions. I can ask now these questions also now, right? So, for example, if I'm not doing gamification, right? So now, if I'm not targeting those customers, how do I know if I'm not telling them come on the UI, right, and come on the UI and play with the UI, stay on the UI, because that's one way companies know how much the customer is used. More they use my product, the more they're engaged with me. So if I'm not doing that, right, how do I know that my customer is engaged? But while that is true for many apps, where what they measure is how long a person is using the app, right? Which is that is true for Hotstar, Netflix, that how long, because that's an entertainment domain. Whereas Zero Da is saying, I don't need you to share my. In fact, it's the other way around. How fast do you come in, buy something, and leave? Then I know you're engaged. More and more you purchase without staying too much. Because more you stay on the app, that means I built a more complicated app, right? It's the opposite. So now I'll start understanding these things. That the metric or the way they're looking at engagement is how fast somebody comes in, does what they want to do, and gets out. It's interesting, right? So these are the kind of questions which have come to my mind now, right? So now I'll only take a few of them, right? So basically, if you take your growth has been word of mouth. So competition, yeah, they did let go of the users which Grow got, but that's okay, right? Because Grow actually struggled with profitability because they got people who came in, went, no loyalty, but they grew fast. Whereas Zero that doesn't need to raise money, they make a lot of money. They're very, very profitable because they stayed true to their customers. So the answer to that question is they're not even targeting that customer. They're not trying to grow exponentially. They're trying to say we are growing steadily, but we make a lot of money. Because for any company, right, revenue and profits are both important. In fact, profit is even more important. If you make a lot of revenue and you're still in losses, you're losing money, that's worse than doing slow growth, right? But at least I'm making money, right? So Zero Da is going after that. They're making money, right? So now, the reason I put this question now is because in this method, right, once you ask the questions at the beginning about the product, list down the capabilities, now you know the domain, the customer, the domain, and the strategy. In that interview or in your job to your manager, when they are discussing features, you can ask the counter question also. Because we are not doing this, how would we do this? So that's the kind of question. Because we are not doing any advertisement, then how would we attract new customers? How do I know my customer is liking my product? How are they engaging? So these are the questions which are now you're going to ask because you understand what you're not done in the product also, right? So as I said at the beginning, what you do is important. What you don't do in a product is also equally important. What you don't do tells you also a very powerful story about what the company is putting money in and why they are putting money in there and not somewhere else. So in this example of Zero Da, right, we had a product ready, but interesting thing is a product is never constant, right? A product evolves. What Zero Da app was 10 years back is not the same today. So does that mean as products change, I have to pay attention to the features which are changing, which also tell me that over time is the company strategy changing, right? That's a fact, right? I mean, Apple's strategy was never the same. They were never into music or mobile. They were a computer company, right? Things happened with the launch of the iPod and then the iPhone and then the iPad. So they also kept shifting their strategy, and today they are making far more money in phones than they're making in laptops or computers, which used to be their main strategy in the 80s and 90s, right? Mahindra is making more money now from urban vehicles than rural vehicles, right? So if I'm an engineer working or if I'm a person working in these companies, I need to pay attention that what new features are what features are coming in, what features are getting removed, which also tells me how the strategy is shifting. So let's take an example of that, right? Like in a transition, that how is there a, as you watch a company over time, would you be able to use the same method to know that what kind of strategy shift has happened because I see the product changing? So before you go into the transition examples, right? So if you sorry, I think now you can probably hear me. So if you go into the before you go into transition example, right? Why is this important? What I'm telling you now. See, because when you join a company, right, you always want to work in a product or an area, right? You always want to work in a product area where there is money, where the company is investing, where they're actually putting in newer and newer investments in. You don't want to work in an area which is going to die, where the company is saying we are going to disinvest or we are going to reduce our focus, right? How would you know that? So if you use this methodology, and if you even if you're working on a product and you keep observing, right, what new features are coming in, what new products are getting launched, then what will happen is you will also shift to places where you believe the focus is, right? And the only way to do that is to know your whole company, because nobody, believe me guys, in my 30 years, no company, in none of my companies, anybody sat with me and told me this is our strategy. Nobody sat with me and said, oh, this is our domain shift we are observing. Nobody tells you that. You have to figure it out, right? So, for example, one of the companies I was in, we were actually doing desktop management, desktop and laptop management. So, we used to build software which managed desktops and laptops, correct? And what we started observing after the iPhone got launched was that, oh, there is a shift happening in companies where companies are saying to employees that, hey, you know what, you can bring your own phone. Before that, companies used to give laptops to their employees and they said, okay, use your laptops. But with phones, they were not able to do that because everybody had a phone and the phone had access to all the data in the company. They had your access to emails. So now all of a sudden, employee had access to everything just on this small device. And I observed the domain shift saying that more and more companies are allowing, which means the need for a company to secure that device is very high. So we actually the shifted our focus from desktop to and laptops to phones, smartphones. And the employees in my organization who realized this, they started ramping themselves on mobile technologies. They started studying that domain, studying the customers who are actually buying these smartphones and how companies are responding to that. And those are the companies who got promoted. Those are the employees who got promoted, did well in my organization. And when my company got sold to IBM, IBM bought my company, right? The employees who did really well were the employees who could do the transition, who could understand that now all of a sudden, though I was very good in desktop security, laptop security, I need to change, I need to learn about mobile phones, about smartphones, about hardware, software, right? And because of that shift, when you realized it, you position yourself. You started in the organization. There are smart employees who started saying, "Hey, give me opportunities here." It's a true example from my life, right? So this technique we are teaching you, right, where you take any product, look around you and pick a product, right, and list the top 5 or 10 capabilities you observe in that product, which because of which the product sells, because the customers buy. And from that, try to figure out who is the customer they are targeting. Try to figure out what changes in the domain happened because of which they are investing here. Make that a habit. And that way, when you go for an interview and ask this question, do you have any opinion about our product, or can you tell me what next we should do in our product, or what do you think of my organization, what do you think of my competition? You'll not just I've taken thousands of interviews. Rarely a student understands and asks a question back. They are directly going to saying, oh, because this company is using Python or this UI framework. I'm not asking that question. That will come later. Once I know you can think, then I'll ask you about technology and technical questions. And with the world of AI, that's for sure. So that is this technique. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, as I said, right, the things don't remain constant. Products change. So when the product change, I have to change with them. But if I'm not observing, I'll get laid off one day and not realize why I'm getting laid off, right? So I'll give you an example of that. Also, I'm going to publish the attendance link now. You can give your attendance, but as I said, at some time in the later, we'll also give the quiz, and the students who do the attendance and the quiz as per your college will be marked for full attendance. Okay, so as I said, we are not going to repeat the attendance, we are not going to repeat the test also. So if you miss any of it, please don't email us saying open it up and all that. We'll keep the attendance open for 15 minutes, and when we start the quiz, we'll keep it open for 15 minutes, and that's it. Okay. All right, hope you enjoy the next part of the session. We'll again chat. And please, I don't see many questions. The Tuesday batch had hundreds of questions, and I had really good time engaging with them. So some of you guys who are listening, or I hope all of you are listening, ask questions. I'm happy to, spend my time in answering those, right? I think there was a question. A company having loyal customers, what is the question? And as you notice, I'm removing students who are troubling. Okay, I'm removing the students from the chat, and I know who they are. Okay, so I'm removing them who are disturbing the class. All the students, where is that? I think there was a question, but I'm losing that question. If a company having loyal customers will be not, its income be less, and there'll be less people. No, so it's not. So Atharva, right? Atharva, it's a good question. That's why I said, right? So Grow went after thousands of customers. They said they just marketed a lot, spent a lot of marketing money, and they said, come and try us. Zerodha, actually, their margins are higher because while they say Zerodha, right, they do charge you money when you do intraday trading, right? When you do FNO, right? Futures and options. So what they say is that once you become a loyal customer, you'll try various products. They educate you on that. And then you stay with them long term and keep spending money with them, right? So their profits are higher, which is why, by the way, they're not public. They're not raised any money. They're not gone to any venture capitalist, nothing. They make profits, whereas many companies don't make profits for years. So even if you're loyal customers who keep spending with you, over the long term, you're going to make far more money. So there is a term in the industry called LTV, lifetime value of a customer, LTV. It's a very important metric we use in the industry. Lifetime value means one customer over a period has spent how much money with me. So for example, right, let's say you like clothing and you like the Levi's brand, right? Or you like Alan Solly or any of the brand. And if you keep buying only Levi's jeans, right, then your lifetime value to Levi's is very, very high. Because you have become a loyal customer. You're not buying Wrangler, or you're not buying Flying Machine, or you're not buying Pepe jeans. You're only buying Levi's, right? So you're a very important customer to me. Correct? I don't want to build a. So what Zerodha said is, I don't want to build a product where somebody comes in, quickly spends money, leaves, and never comes back. They want to give you an experience where you develop trust in them and you keep spending money with them. So while yes, the growth of customers might be slower than Grow, over time they're making far more money. Right? All right. So that's kind of, so that's why you'll understand. So the strategy, if you're going to join Grow or go for an interview with Grow, it's a very different set of thinking and understanding you'll have to do compared to Zerodha. Or if you join Motilal Oswal, it's a very different strategy they have. So which is why this method is very important. If you study, right? The other question from Sparsh, sir, how do we give attendance and quiz? So I will just post the attendance now. It's a Google form, you can fill it out, and the quiz will be done in some time. And people who do both will be obviously marked attend. Okay, so let's go to the next part of the session now. I'll just post the link for the attendance. Right? So basically, in Zerodha's case, right, it was a snapshot. You you looked at a product and you did the method. Now let's say example of a company like Nike. I want to take a non-software example also. This is methodology is the same regardless of the product, right? So in the case of Nike, right, I hope everybody knows Nike, right? So Nike, as you know, is one of the most valuable companies in the world which makes sportswear. Footwear, especially, but sportswear overall, right? It's a brand everybody knows. That swoosh is known by everybody. But maybe in India we are not noticing it much, but over the last 3, 4, 5 years, they have been losing market share, right? Why is that? There are a lot of people who work for Nike and they have also let go of a lot of people. They have changed, something has changed in Nike over the last 10 years. What has happened, right? Now, the same method can be used to figure that out, right? Now, I can take the product, the way they sell, the product is always the shoe, right? Obviously, correct? But I can look at the way they're selling the shoe also is a product. If you have to build an online store or you have to build an offline strategy, but end of the day, how I reach my customers is finally they have to buy shoes, right? But while they're doing that, did something shift with them over the last 10-15 years? As I said, today what I notice is that there's something which has happened because of which they have lost some market share, right? Now, if I want to study this, right, over a span of, I go back and look at a company, that is even going to tell me more, saying that where they were and where they are now, which is going to make me even more knowledgeable about the kind of stuff, if I join them, I have to focus on to build, right? So in Nike's case, it's very interesting, right? So, like any other company, if I look at their data, right, we see that before 2017, they were like any other traditional shoe company, right? They used to build shoes and try to market a lot, advertise a lot. They used to sign big sports stars and sell it to stores, via stores, big stores, right? Especially in the United States, right? There are these big stores where they will stock Nike stores. There'll be people who will be knowledgeable about the Nike shoes and they'll sell it to the customers, right? But then something happened, right? Where there is this whole thing which started happening, saying that, oh, I have to reach my customer directly, right? Which means that why do I need these stores at all? Why can't I directly sell it online to my customers? Correct? So now, if you start selling online to your customers and you start giving different prices, then for the stores are not going to like it because now you're eating their business. So you have to kind of figure out how to if you're going to do both, it's very difficult. Understand what I'm saying, right? Because if I go for, like, for example, Flipkart or Amazon are not trying to say that, oh, we also will stock Amazon will stock their products in physical stores. If I do, I'll have my own stores. Amazon may have its own stores, but it's not trying to sell its products to other store, right? Correct? There are companies who sell online and offline, or the companies who sell only offline or only online. But it's very tricky because the pricing, if I see a big discount online and the same thing is more expensive offline, then the offline guy is going to say, I will never be able to sell because people are going to open their phone and compare prices, right? So how do I do it? So now with Nike, what happened was that before 2017, they are obviously a big brand today also, but what happened in between was, if I look at their data, the customer base they were targeting, people like me and you, right? And there are people who are premium sports players who are you're using Nike products, but most of their customer base were normal people, right? And they said, why should I not go directly to you? Why do I need this store? So let's get out of the stores. Let's develop an application, a product which will allow people to go online and buy shoes directly, right, from Nike, correct? And now between 2017 and 22, they tried that and something happened. And by the way, there's a very successful example of this. So this you guys won't know, but in the 90s, right, the computers used to be sold like that in stores only, right? At that time you had Hewlett Packard, HP, you had a company called Compaq, you had a company and other companies, Gateway, there was a company called Gateway who made these computers, right? And they used to put them in stores. People went to stores and bought them, just like we buy from Chroma or a Geo store today, right? But then Dell came about, and that time Dell said, I want to bypass all this, and they only started selling direct to customers online. So you could, that time it was not online, but you could order a phone, order by phone, or order directly with the company. And they became extremely successful because they could give lower prices. Because now all of a sudden they don't need to give discounts to they don't need to sell their computers to the store owners, to the store who's stocking it, and then they sell it to the customer, right? So now they could sell better computers at a lower price. And they could get a lot of the customer data also, because they now exactly knew what the customer wanted. So Dell is a very successful example of who looked at the domain and said customers are preferring, because computers are expensive, right? So that time there were tech savvy customers who understood it, and they said, why should I depend on stores if I can directly buy and come from the manufacturer itself? But that didn't work for Nike. Why? Right? Because their bet was, right? So rather than reading, right, their bet was that if I go fully online, so that they had a product, good shoes, and they thought that they're selling to customers who would prefer directly to engage with them. So they started getting out of stores and started selling it online. But what happened? Because they started selling online and because every customer is online is used to getting deep discounts, customers started saying, yeah, it's online. I need a sale, I need discounts, and Nike used to not give as many discounts before. So now they had to deep discount it. So they started giving the same shoe at lower prices because customers who are typically, it's our psychology, right? Anything which is online, we expect deals. We expect it to be cheaper, right? On top of that, they started losing their customers also because what they noticed was that in the area of shoes, right? I go in and I typically don't go in saying that I want Nike shoe only and this size, this type, this color, this for this sport. Usually go in saying I want to buy a running shoe, right? And then you get educated in the store saying, oh, there is Asics, there is Nike, there is Reebok, there is something else, and then you make a decision. So there's somebody who you consult with because shoes is a very personal thing, right? And they thought that that is not very important. And online people didn't get that, so they basically stopped. They started going to the stores. They stopped seeing Nike on the shelves, and they started the new brands called Hoka or On, and all these new players were not even there 5, 8, 7 years back. They started selling a lot more, and they started stealing Nike customers. So the strategy was to go from offline selling to fully online selling, right? And then they now have gone to the hybrid mode where they came back and saying, wait a second, we need to do both. But how do we do both smartly? So let's do it based on loyalty. Let's try to create a loyal base. One of the things they realize is people are not loyal to their brand, right? So Nike, as I given in the shift, right, inferred shift, Nike overestimated how many customers were loyal app first and underestimated how many of them were ordinary convenience driven shoppers. What does that mean? The assumption was that people are tech savvy, they'll go online, they'll know, they look at the pictures and buy a shoe. But shoe is a very personal thing, right? So a lot of them, their customers were actually just ordinary customer like me who will walk into a store and then browse and then look at a shoe, feel it in my hand, talk to the shop owner, store owner, he'll tell me certain things and I'll make a decision, right? And their sales started going down, right? And then when they cut the middleman and went to the customer directly and removed it from the store, what did it do, right? Basically what it would do was the fact that I could not physically discover my product, I could not see it also, I could not feel it, touch it. I said, okay, let me try that brand called Hoka. I see that looks pretty good. Let me try On, let me try something else, right? And that era they lost the customer. Now they're doing the correction, right? So basically now they are saying that while I want to directly talk to my customer, I can't cut the store now. So they are now creating a loyalty program where you can go online, you can browse, do everything, right? But it will all not stop you from buying offline. They will still say, okay, in this store, you can go to the store and buy. They'll also tell you the store list that you can go here and buy this product. So they are using the online thing for putting on the offline stores because they notice that once they go into the store and if they are already the online thing, they are kind of excited by the new product, then when they go offline, right, the purchase is happening because in my head now, Nike is there and I'll go and ask questions, feel the product and I'll buy the product, right? So the looking at now, and I basically, if you will notice if you go on their website, right, and if you're following the news around them or what they're doing, you'll easily be able to derive this, right? Now, why is this an example of a transition? Why is this example important, right? Because whenever you join a company, right, you will start with the product and we learn that methodology, correct? But over time, let's say you stay in the company for 5, 10 years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. These things are going to keep happening, right? So now, if you don't understand what it was before, you will not be able to understand what it is now. As an example, you're working on a product, and your manager says, hey, next release, we are going to remove these 3 features and we're going to add these 2 features. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to say, why? What happened? Is there a strategy shift happening? And the reason to know why a strategy shift is happening, because in the new strategy, they are going to put money and people. So if you're not part of that strategy, you're going to get laid off. So you better be part of that strategy. So if you understand the strategy, you're going to ask for work in that area. and then you will become valuable to the company. Else you'll be working on the old thing, and one day you lose your job. Because as a strategy shift, you have to also shift along with the strategy. You have to stay in the place where the company is investing the money. Always remember that. Always pay attention to where the company is putting money. Put work on those products, work in those areas. If the company has started heavily investing in cloud, you better be one of the cloud enablers in the company, not working on the traditional product. If they're investing a lot on, not AI is too big, but these kind of applications with AI, then you better be in that area. Because they're investing in AI, but not overall. They're investing in one part of their business with AI. You better be in that then. Right? So with Nike, the reason I wanted to give an example, the first example was where there was a product and you derived all of this. In this example, you looked at a change over time to derive what change in the domain, what was about their customer they're targeting, and what is the strategy they kept changing. In this case, the customer did not change. The same customers they started losing. They wanted to get them back. So they changed the strategy because they made a mistake with one of the strategy changes they did in between. Right? And then you can, as usual, ask some of the pointed questions, right? Like the second question, was the core assumption that owning the relationship justifies premium pricing wrong? Which means when I went online, I thought that okay, if I the customer directly with me, I cut the middleman, right? Will they still pay a big premium for me? Can I keep the same price? But it did not happen. Customer says online, I need a discount, right? But now because you understand this, you can ask these pointed questions. And that makes you very impressive in an organization. That makes you the person who has the ideas, who has the understanding, and then you'll have ideas saying, hey, now I get it, let's do this. Can we do this feature? Can we make this change to our service? You will be the person because now you have a full understanding. You have good questions. And that makes you very valuable. Right? So bringing it all together, right? So one way is, as I said, you can go from understanding your domain to understand the customers to the product to the strategy, right? Which we started at the beginning. Other way is start from the product and understand the customer, understand the domain, and thus understand the strategy, right? You will mostly have to do the second one because when you join a company, nobody is going to sit with you and explain their domain and customer and strategy to you. They'll give you a product to work on. So now second, but as you rise in the organization, you will be able to do number one. Because now you are as a part of the people who are actually making big decisions for the company. And you'll reach there very fast because you did the second part very well. Then you can now start taking a view saying, what are the domain shifts? How does that influence the direction of my investments? And thus the direction of my, the way my product is going to shape up now. You'll be part of that. So that you will start using the first forward method also. But start with the reverse method because that's what you're going to be starting with as a fresher, right? And this is the kind of thing, guys, I keep saying this. I'm seeing what is happening in the job market on a day-to-day basis. I see the kind of interviews. I myself take a lot of interviews, right? And I know the kind of questions I'm asking nowadays. Very different than what I asked 10 years back or 5 years back, in fact, right? So if the obvious question any company is asking is, how are you more valuable than AI? See, these are the kind of things which will allow you to answer that question. Because the moment you say, I can write good code, they're going to say AI does that. Oh, I can do analysis and data analysis, and I can create charts, graphs, I can analyze, AI does that well. They are looking for understanding now, right? So AI will be able, once you know this, you can use AI now to produce material. Because now you can control AI. It becomes your assistant, right? So the understanding, once you have, you can use AI like a tool. But if you don't have that, then AI will become the one who is doing all the things, and then the company is going to say, what's your value, right? This is happening on a day-to-day basis, by the way. The people who are being let go by companies are these kind of people. But the moment you demonstrate understanding, moment you have that insight and you ask the right questions, and you have this overall understanding saying that, wait, I have an idea now because I understand why this feature is not getting used well by my customer. Because I understand my customer now. Let's improve it this way. That's when you start becoming valuable. AI can't do that. There are many parameters, right? There are constraints in the company on the budgets, on the kind of people they have, the competition. Lot of things are there which AI can't just assume and give answers for. But if you know all of this and you use this method, then you can use AI like a tool. I know I'm repeating myself, but guys, this is so important. I want all of you guys to really do well in today's world, and some of you guys who understand this will do really well, because AI is going to accelerate your career actually. But for many who don't do this, they become the not don't become the thinkers. It's going to decelerate their careers. Okay. So in summary, this is what we learned today, right? There is a forward method, there's a reverse method, right? And always, I mean, the question is, right, you'll always, if you're giving in an interview, right, you're doing inferences, correct? You're coming up with your point of views, correct? So make this a habit, right? Look at a product, and even if in your college projects, if you're picking a project, don't pick a project just because of the technology. Pick a project where you understand the problem, what you're trying to solve. Is it exciting? Is it, who is the customer I'm targeting? Is it even required in that space? Just don't do technology for technology's sake, right? Use these methods. And then when you present your project to a teacher or a reviewer or an industry project, all of a sudden, right, they'll know exactly why you've done what you've done, how you can improve, and how it is a valuable product. It starts very small with college projects, but this method, this habit remains with you as you go for interviews and does join companies. So I hope this is clear. I hope you understood the methodology and what it means by what I said by understanding companies. All right. So all the best, and use it as much as you can. Thanks. So guys, I'm going to pose the quiz now. You can take the quiz, but I got two good questions, so I'm going to answer those first. So one question was how to know where the company is investing. Interestingly, we're going to take a topic about that actually. We're going to take a topic about that in the next week itself, where we're going to talk about how to look at companies' finances, how to know where they're investing, how they're managing costs. We're going to do that, right? But to answer your question, how do you know where the company is investing? You will get to know that. See, once you know your product in and out, you're observing with this method, right? You will see that in the next release, are they asking me to develop more and more features, or is the product going into support, right? Is it going into maintenance? Are they putting more money into certain other product, and then we'll go back and say what kind of customers are they going after now, right? Correct. So you will the money for you as an engineer when you go in, where you will see is where the number of people in the team are growing, or where they are seeing that more and more features I'm adding, right? They are having more meetings on innovation on a particular area. They are all of a sudden initiatives are saying, oh, let's go on the cloud, oh, we are going to use AI in that area. But if you don't know this method, you won't know why they are doing it, right? So you don't know whether it's a good investment they're making, or are they making it for the long term, short term. So all you have to do is observe the number of features which are getting into a product, what is getting removed from a product, and if initiatives are getting launched in a certain area. If you pay attention to that, then you work backwards with this method and say, wait a second, they removed 3 features and they're adding 4 features in a different area. Why? Is my customer changing? And all that data is available to you. Nobody's going to tell you, but it's all available, right? And that's how you know. There is another question about Nike stock. Yeah, Nike is going to take time to recover, guys. So that's what Nike also laid off a lot of people. So they're only keeping people now who are understanding their new strategy, right? It takes time to recover. So imagine now working for a phenomenal company like Nike, and all of a sudden you're told to, you're fired, right? They didn't fire the people who were valuable. They fired the people who didn't get their new strategy, right? So now Nike is recovering, but it is going to take a little time, because by the time they lost their market share and brands like Hoka and On and other brands came in, now they're able to fight back and get back their market share, and then their stock will go up, right? All right. So having said that, I'm going to post the quiz link, and I'm going to pin it at the bottom. Take the quiz, and as I said, whoever has taken the attendance and the quiz will match, and only for both of them the attendance will be marked. And if you have any questions in the meantime, keep posting. I'll stay on this session to answer those questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. Why don't they tell their company people what strategy? Yeah, they don't, Atharva, unfortunately. See, they expect you to actually be curious and get to know it. Nobody has the time, Atharva. Unfortunately, right? When you join a company, nobody's going to sit with you and do it. But I'll tell you this also. If you use these methods and demonstrate to them you can do it, you'll be spotted. And they'll start pulling you into meetings at a very early time in your company, because they're hungry for people who are going to work beyond the job they're having. If you join as a developer and you're developing some code, right, and one day you'll just keep developing code, and one day you'll know you don't have a job, but you keep doing this and you ask the right questions. While they not sit with you and explain the strategy, the moment you start asking the right questions, they will sit with you 100%. I have done that myself. I always keep looking for curious people who do this, and then I'll spend a lot of time with them. But I don't have the bandwidth to spend the same time with everybody, right? How do we know? How can we know that the investor needs more features in their domain? It's not like that. See, it's a very big topic by itself, Aniket. It's not about the investor. I think you're saying it incorrectly. I think what you're trying to say is that how do we know what features I should add? See, people in the company are paying attention to the domain, and domain means what is happening there, who is my competition, what is the competition doing. So let's take an example, right? I give an example of a car company, right? There are two big things happening in car companies, right? They're going either towards EV or hybrid or hydrogen tomorrow, and the second is lot of computerization is happening, self-driven cars, so on and so forth, right? Now I have to decide. Self-driving cars are an expensive investment, right? So I keep studying that domain and seeing how many customers are there. Are they willing to buy? And based on that, I say, okay, now right now I don't want to invest in EV, right? But in my current cars, let me try to invest on self-driving feature, on ADAS or self-driving, because I feel more customers will buy my cars for that, and I'll give 5 more years and let me see where EV is going. So all this is decided by companies who are continuously studying the domain, the shifts in the domain, the regulations which are changing, what is competition doing, and they are also paying attention to their customers. And then of course you have budgets, right? You can't invest in everything. Now those engineers who help them with putting these two together and saying, oh, next the release of our car, let's add these two features. That is the shift I'm saying. And like in India, for example, people went from small cars to big cars. Very few companies. So if you notice today, Honda, which was to do very, very well, has been dropping its market share a lot. That from Honda City, after that, they just kept dropping because they somehow didn't get it, what Indians were looking for. Whereas Hyundai or a Kia has done very well, because they came out with this MUV, the mid-size SUV, much earlier, right? Honda did not. Now they are trying, but they launched the Elevate, right? You can see that with software companies also, right? So if you take what happened with a Zepto or a Blinkit, right? It's a very interesting case study. Why did they think that there could be this concept where I would need deliver in 10 minutes and I should develop a dark store for it? Why did they? That's a very interesting case study. So that's what happens. You have to, it's not about the investor. It is about the management of the company, the employees of the company, continuously studying their domain and their customers and the budgets and money they have, and creating a strategy to say where to put money, right? Will Zerodha ever have an IPO? Because yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you look at their interviews, right, they don't seem to want to go IPO, because see, the risk in going IPO is once you go into the stock market, every quarter you will be under pressure now to deliver, and you can't make many decisions very easily. So if you are making a lot of money anyway, they may not need to raise money, and they don't may not want to go IPO. There are some large companies in the world which are not public, even for last 50 years. I mean, you would know a company like IKEA. Is a huge company making a lot of money. They're still not public, where they make money, right? Sir, how should we adapt to the change? What change? See, the thing is, if the changes are going to keep happening, right? The skills we are going to teach you in Satkam or the semesters is for you to help you with this change. That you need to go from a doer to a thinker, right? So if you just while you're what you're studying in college, the technology part, you should do that really well. But along with that, you should become a thinker, which is what we are trying to teach you. A combination like this is deadly. Then there'll be no problem for you to get a job. We look for people who are thinkers who can do technology. We don't look for technologists only anymore, right? And that's how you'll adapt, right? which company might flourish more under pressure? I don't know so what that means. Nobody wants the pressure, and especially nobody wants pressure on revenue and profits. So no, you don't want to create artificial pressure. Samsung is also making tanks. So phone and tanks, they are completely. Yeah, see, Samsung is like Tata. Like Tata makes from salt all the way to defense. They do everything. So Samsung is like Tata in Korea, right? So they do everything, but they're independent companies, right? The company which make phones don't make tanks, right? I mean the department or the division. So yeah, I mean Tata, the Samsung kind of companies are same like Tata in India. So I'm going to close the attendance sheet now, but I'll obviously keep um, the quiz sheet running for it's 3:40. So I'll keep it open till 4. Yeah, General Electric is the correct Anant, right? Yeah, correct Anant. General Electric is the same example. They make everything. In fact, before they used to make a lot more. Now they are spinning off their companies. So they used to have GE Medical. They used to have GE, obviously General Electric. They used to make turbines. So now their GE Medical is a different company altogether. But yes, General Electric is a very correct example. Like Samsung, like Tata, they used to do many things. That's correct. Okay. Any other questions? Attendance sheet is now closed. Is that Vaishnav? Yeah, I mean, I kept it open for 30 minutes, Vaishnav. So it's closed now. So as I said before, attendance sheet will close now in 15 minutes. I will close it in 30, and now the test sheet will stay open till 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, we'll close the quiz. So does posting on LinkedIn really matter? Aditya, I mean, it's not posting on, yeah, definitely. I mean, see, if you have good stuff to say, you have to be careful what you say, how you say. But yeah, I mean, just one of those mediums by which, I mean, all of you guys need to be very careful with social media going forward. So LinkedIn is obviously a professional network. So if you have analysis, you have study and you want to post, yes, why not? And not a bad idea at all, because that's how you express, you write blogs. But yeah, I mean, if you want to start getting into the point to the point where people start listening to you, hearing you, yeah, why not? LinkedIn is not bad at all. Why don't Nike just collaborate with a big celebrity? Yeah, they do that all the time. No, Anand, they do that all the time. They have types with many celebrities, and in fact, Nike was one of the first ones who started doing this big time. Even today, they are doing it. But now they because they lost a lot of market share in between, they'll have to come with new strategies. It's not just about getting a celebrity. Like you and me, we will not buy just because tomorrow Amir Khan said that buy this shoe. I won't do that, right? That time has gone now. Or a bad example, maybe some sportsman. So let's say just because I see Messi, the brand, I won't buy something Messi is using just like that, right? It takes more than that because I have my own budget. I have my own needs. So that's where Nike kind of lost their market share, but they'll come back. They're a very strong company, but yeah, they'll have to fight to get back their market share they lost. Zoho versus Google. What is the question? You may want to elaborate in the question, Shubham. What are you trying to ask? So Akshat, I think you're posting this again and again. I won't order. I won't. I can't respond to a very personal question about something you're working on. But if you need help, if you need inputs, message me, right? And if you have something specific, I'll be happy to answer your question. But on this chat group, I cannot answer about social media startup and all that, right? But you can definitely ping me, right? Who are the main competitors? Customers and of whom? Who are the main customers and competitors of whom? Which company are we talking about here? Yes, the fan can. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'll definitely. That's why you see on hoardings, right? When you see a celebrity, it definitely catches your attention. But it takes more than that for me to spend money and buy, right? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Celebrity marketing is very common, but you need more than that. So strategy. That's one part of your strategy on how you market, but it takes much more than that. So as you study and use this method, right, you're going to go from a product and saying how are they, who are they targeting, and how are they targeting the customers. Is it by celebrity ads? Is it influencer marketing? Is it something else? Zero Dav has a completely different way of marketing than a Grow or a Motilal Oswal or like that, right? Yes, yes, if you have completed the quiz you can absolutely leave, Bharat. No problems. So actually, the quiz I think is I'll close it in 5 more minutes. In fact, it's a very short quiz, a simple quiz. So in 5 minutes, I will 350. So if anybody is still remaining to take the quiz, let me know on this chat. But we'll close the quiz at 350. What do you thought of 1.8? Yeah, 1.8 is an interesting experiment, Vedant. I hope it succeeds. It's the first legitimate big. They're trying to compete. It's not about Virat. It's this company who makes 1.8 brand, right? They used to make shoes and footwear for big companies like Puma and Adidas and whatnot. Now they have all the technology, they have all the know-how. So now they launched a brand of their own. So I hope it succeeds. So I think 1.8 brand is will be interesting to watch how it does in India and then hopefully worldwide. Which startups have you worked? So you can look at my LinkedIn profile. It's all there on my LinkedIn profile. I worked for four actually startup mid-sized companies in my life. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. I hope you learned. I'll give it 4 more minutes. I'll stay on for 4 more minutes, and then I'll shut the quiz. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer. But yeah. Attendance link I can't open now, Bhagesh. I can't open. I told you guys before that we'll keep it open for 15 minutes. But yeah, now we can't open it. The test link is open though. You can connect with me on WhatsApp. I'll give my number here. This is my WhatsApp number. There are other instructors also in Satkam, depending if you're. But make sure when you connect, you have some specific questions. You know what you want to talk about. We are happy to help any student. Which quick commerce business? I think why don't you take a shot at it and let me know, and then we can have a discussion on it. Blinkit, Zepto, or Swiggy. Different strategies they have, right? Blinkit and Zepto. Blinkit belongs to Zomato now. So study that separately than Zepto and study that separately than Swiggy. But it's interesting how the delivery space has changed. I mean, my guess is tomorrow Blinkit will be bigger than Zomato itself, though it belongs to Zomato. But it's interesting. So let's take a shot at using this method we taught you today, Mahavir. Study the product, then take a guess, look at the customers, then look at the strategy, the domain, and then if you can come up with your point of view, I'll be happy to discuss that. Well, students building startups. See, startup is I think most biggest mistake students make is they do startups based on their interest in the technology. So I just don't do AI startup. Don't do a startup because you love the technology. You have to really study the domain and the customer and make sure there is a need, because the biggest problem in startups is raising money, right? Somebody has to believe that your product is going to make money. So don't do just startups as a startup to get experience on how to build a product, how to do, yes. But if you are seriously doing a startup, make sure you have a point of view on why your product will be bought by customers and why would they pay money for it, right? So it's a good idea. If you have an idea, go for it, right? But make sure you're not driven by technology, and just because the world is talking AI, I have an AI startup. People don't put money, right? It's very difficult to raise money, right? So always use this and make sure that whenever you have a product idea, it is you can speak about why in this domain with these customers my product will sell, right? Just a BTech degree is enough, or is management degree mandatory if I don't want to work in the technical? Don't, first and foremost, from day one, right? Don't, you're coming to engineering, so don't be afraid of the technical domain. Don't think you're any less than any other student, right? Because now with AI in technical domain, you are going to get a lot of help. But focus on becoming a complete engineer, what we call as a full stack engineer, who understands right from understanding why a company is in this domain, why it is building certain products, who are the customers it's going after. So become a full stack engineer. And then at that point, later you do an MBA. Yes, MBA will help you a lot with networking, with learning certain topics you may not have. But my personal opinion is, if you want to do an MBA, do it after you get a few years experience, and do it from a very very good college. Doing an MBA from a mediocre college is useless. That's my personal opinion. Yes, the product should be solving a problem which is valuable enough for someone to pay money for it, right? If people are not going to pay money, then the product is useless. How do I see cloud computing evolving? No, I don't know, honestly, John, but I everywhere see today, AI is getting used much more for optimization, for efficiency, code generation, testing. I think everything is going to get to a point where AI will get inserted into actual products, like for features and for intelligence in those features. So like what happens with self-driving cars, right? AI is embedded in that. Without that, vision AI, you cannot build a self-driving car, right? So I think cloud also will evolve. So there will be the efficiency part where they'll say to deploy on cloud, to manage cloud, I'm using AI to make decisions. Yeah, that will happen. But how cloud will evolve to a point where it is tightly taking advantage of AI, I don't know yet. Even it's a question I don't have an answer yet. So it's 3:51. Unless somebody tells me I'm going to shut off the or unpublish the quiz. Anybody is on this who has not finished the quiz yet? Yes, in the company every day. Only thing in a company which people talk about the most is why are their customers, are their customers happy? Why are they not getting new customers? Why are they losing customers? Everything is about the customer in a company. So you better fall in love with understanding your customer. It's the most important thing. Okay, there's somebody saying I'm still filling. Please hurry up. I have kept it open for a long time now, but I'll close it in, let's say, 3:55. 3 more minutes, guys. Yeah, attendance sheet won't open now. I told you at the beginning itself that the attendance will stay open for 15 to 20 minutes. I kept it for 30 minutes. So we'll not open it now. Now the attendance is closed. Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Some there a question. What is Aratize data? I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. I can't. I don't know. Oracle is not building open source software at all. Oracle makes a lot of money still on their databases, which are heavy, very expensive. So though they own Java, right? They own Java because they're building applications on top of it, which they charge a lot of money for. Okay, it's like saying Android is free. So how is anybody making money? No, Android is not free. Some base features Google releases, but a lot of the features which they build on top, they don't make them free at all. They're only available in Pixel, right? Or their own technology. But they so the open source one, right? So with Oracle, they make a lot of money even today with their databases. Okay, any other questions? But how is Android proprietary? No, no, it's not proprietary. Android is open. The base Android is open source, but then on top of that, when you build something, you can make it proprietary. So you have built on top of that, right? So then they can make it proprietary as per the norm. There are open source licensing rules. So the base Android, yes, it is definitely open source. But a lot of the things you build on top, there are certain rules on what you can make proprietary versus not. Everything you build on top cannot be open source. Even on Linux, tons and tons of people have built a lot of things which are heavily expensive. While the core Linux is, yeah, it will deny. I think Munna, yeah, attendance will not open up now. Attendance is closed now because attendance was only open for 15 to 20, no, so 30 minutes actually. Now attendance will not open again. But the test is open right now. It will close in 1 minute. Good questions, guys. A lot of you guys, some of you guys were asking this curious question. Keep that on. You will stand out. You will be the people who, along with your engineering knowledge, the technical knowledge, if you demonstrate this, you will stand out in interviews. You will get jobs before everybody else. So keep this up. Yeah, no, open source licenses have different types. Just study those. There are different types of open source. It's not one type. So it depends on what type it is. So it's 3:55, guys. I'm going to close the quiz link now. Okay. Okay. All right then. But a Linux kernel, yes. So you cannot that itself. But on top of that, for applications you build, there are different type of licensing rules actually. Okay, I think we are at the end of our session. Thank you for your time. I'm also going to close out this session now. Thanks. See you guys next week. Bye. Somebody else will be taking the session next week, but see you at the Satcom session. Bye.